We are talking Devin Lloyd on today's episode of Jags Now, presented by Chat Sports. My name is Cullen Brown, and Devin Lloyd, the upcoming free agent linebacker for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think pretty inarguably, he is the biggest free agent that Jacksonville is going to have to figure out what they're going to do with this offseason. Spoke to Kevin Patra, who writes for NFL.com, about his future and gave just a little bit of insight into where his future lies, where his head's at ahead of his upcoming free agency, not only with Jacksonville, but potentially other teams as well. We'll dive into what he said here in just a moment. But guys, just want to say thank you. We have reached over 1,000 subs recently here on the channel, and it's a credit to you guys. This channel would not be possible without you, and we're trying to make it grow here at Jags Now. We provide daily news, rumors, and analysis. We cover trades, free agency, and the draft, and we want to hear from you. If you guys have any videos in mind that you would like to see here at Jags Now, feel free to get in the comment section down below, and we'll try to make that happen on a future video here at Jags Now. We're currently at just over 1,200 subscribers, so if you guys want to join the movement, help us get to over 2,000 subscribers by the end of February. We greatly appreciate it. The more subscribers equals the more videos we're able to do here on the channel. Hit that sub button, and let's get into today's show. So as previously mentioned, Devin Lloyd spoke with Kevin Patra of NFL.com, speaking about his Jacksonville Jaguars future, and he said this in Patra's article, quote, "I want to be where God wants me to be. For me, bring back in Jacksonville. My mom lives out there. Obviously my lady's out there. There's a lot of pros to being out there. And so for me, it's just about being in the right spot. Ultimately, that's the number one most important thing, being in the right spot. Being in the right spot, a.k.a. where am I cashing in? Look, Devin Lloyd was somebody that, when we were talking to him at the end of the season press conference, he mentioned he wants to play where God wants him to be, being in the right spot, all this stuff, and he's earned that right. But it's also meaning, hey, I'm looking to cash in this offseason. And based on the season that he had last year, he certainly deserves that. 81 tackles, 6 tackles for a loss, had 5 interceptions, 1 that was returned for a touchdown. He was simply put the engine of this Jaguars defense, and really something that helped contribute to the number 1 rush defense in Jacksonville for the 2025 NFL season under Anthony Campanelli. And look, Lloyd's going to command a lot of money, and we're going to get into the details in terms of how much he is going to get this offseason. Could he be potentially priced out of Jacksonville's range? I don't know. And look, there's a familiarity there with Jacksonville. Obviously, he's played his whole career up in Jacksonville up to this point. If it's close, if it's around a mark where, Jacksonville's within $2 to $3 million, would Devin Lloyd, re-sign in Jacksonville? That remains to be seen. It does give you a little bit of confidence saying that Lloyd, enjoys his time in Jacksonville, that he's got family there, that he's built a little bit of a home in Jacksonville. But I think the Jaguars, the money issue is going to be the real concern in trying to bring Devin Lloyd back. And look, some people were saying, well, why don't you just franchise tag Devin Lloyd and maybe work out the details later? Well, the NFL has not done a great job in terms of, restructuring the language around linebackers and edges, which they fall under the same category. So the top edges in their market falls under the same category for linebackers, which is roughly around $28.2 million for 2026. That would significantly blow out the water Fred Warner's $21 million per year that he's making with the San Francisco 49ers, and the Jaguars are not going to pay that, plain and simple. You look at some of the top linebackers paid per year on this list. You got guys like, as we just mentioned, Fred Warner, Roquan Smith, Jermaine Edmonds, Zach Bond, Nick Bolton, Jermaine Sherwood, Patrick Queen, Jeremiah Kosu-Okorma, Aziz Al-Shire, Robert Spillane. To me, I went back and looked at this list, and I was considering some names that maybe could give a ballpark range for Devin Lloyd going into this offseason with contract negotiations. And if I were to guess where it starts, I'm not saying it's going to finish here, but if I had to guess where it starts, like the bare minimum bottom floor, it'd be around $17 million per year, which is what Zach Bond is making with the Philadelphia Eagles. And, if you compare their stats from the past season, they're very similar. Obviously, Lloyd, it took him kind of at the beginning of the season to really earn that full-time starting linebacker job with the Jaguars under Anthony Campanelli. But once he did, he really took off. And obviously, you're going to see the tackle numbers favor Bond, but it's pretty even across the board. Obviously, Lloyd has more quarterback hits, but they're nearly identical in stats. Lloyd obviously has more interceptions. And I think if you're Jacksonville, this is a good reference/starting point when discussing contract extensions with Devin Lloyd. We'll see ultimately if they do make that decision to go after Devin Lloyd and, try to retain his services. Obviously, they'd like to have him back, but at what price? They got to look at cost effectiveness around the roster, and we'll see if Lloyd's a big priority for them. I would imagine he would be so. But I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think is the better player? Type DL if you think it's Devin Lloyd. Type ZB if you think it's Zach Bond. Let me know down in the comment section below. There is a real chance that Devin Lloyd resets the linebacker market. Given his all-pro season, or second-team all-pro season, given his kind of leadership, the fact that I think linebacker is going to be a need for a lot of teams, like the Carolina Panthers, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that Devin Lloyd, is it going to be around $21+ million? If you're looking at this contract projection, I do think it's something reasonable for Devin Lloyd. You're obviously top Zach Bond's $34 million in guaranteed money. You get him at that $20 million per year average. And I think all parties would be, satisfied if Jacksonville's willing to pay that much. And I'm not sure that Jacksonville is willing to pay that much for Devin Lloyd. We're going to talk about some of the other free agents that Jacksonville has coming up. But if you're Jacksonville, who's already paying Josh Hines-Allen, you're going to have to extend Trayvon Walker. Brent Strange is up for a contract extension. Parker Washington. Plus, you've got free agents that you may need to re-sign outside of Devin Lloyd, notably Travis Etienne, Monteric Brown. They're going to have to make some decisions on these free agents coming in the offseason. So the big question is, who will the Jaguars prioritize this offseason? That's going to be something that James Gladstone, Liam Cohen will, and have probably already discussed at this point. And I think that Lloyd obviously factors into that. I'm just not sure at the off-ball linebacker position, are they willing to pay somebody like Devin Lloyd $20 million per year? I'm unsure at this point. I really am. But I'll leave the question up to you. Make the call. Will the Jaguars re-sign Devin Lloyd? Type Y for yes, type in for no. Let me know down in the comment section. Final thoughts. It feels like Devin Lloyd has priced himself out of Jacksonville. It just seems like, with the way that Jacksonville's currently a little over $9 million, I think they're roughly around $9 to $11 million over the cap. They're obviously going to make some restructures. They're obviously going to make some cuts. They're obviously going to make some contract extensions. I just don't know if there's a way that James Gladstone is going to be able to maneuver the cap in order to get Devin Lloyd on this team for 2026. Luckily for Gladstone and Liam Cohen and Anthony Campanelli for that matter, this draft is really deep at linebacker. You've got guys like a Sonny Styles who's obviously not going to be there for you, C.J. Allen, those first-round guys that you're not going to be able to reach. But in the second round, Jake Golday out of Cincinnati. I really like him. He's a physical linebacker that can play side to side. Anthony Hill, if he were to somehow fall in the second round, a potential option. You've got Josiah Trotter, the linebacker out of Missouri, who is a really good run stuffer. Could, potentially use some work in the pass coverage game. But if you're Jacksonville, I just think that's going to be the smart move to potentially look at maybe, drafting linebacker at that 56th overall pick in the second round. And that unfortunately means that you're going to move on from Devin Lloyd. I would like to see him back in a Jaguars uniform for the second time go around, but it just seems unlikely at this point. We'll see ultimately how James Gladstone and Liam Cohen and the rest of the staff views Lloyd, what their price point is, and ultimately where negotiations land. That'll be it for today's episode of Jags Now, presented by Chat Sports. And again, we'd greatly appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. We are on the road to 2,000 subscribers here on the channel. And as always, Jags fans, Duval! We'll see you next time.